broadcasting around the clock with news, weather, information, entertainment and factual programming. This is 24-hour local television for Dublin. This is your City Channel.
Now, time to talk about the stars, and I don't mean the celebrity type, I'm talking about the astronomy type. David Moore from Astronomy Ireland is here. He's been here many times before, so you've got to know him, but this time at least he's brought a bit of equipment. About time as well, David. You brought a lot of stuff, telescopes and so on. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. What about this meteor shower or whatever it was about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was a giant fireball. That's what we call a very bright shooting star. This one was brighter than the full moon, and that's a good sign because it means the rock that caused it might have landed somewhere smaller than that, and they tend to burn up in the atmosphere and never reach the ground.
It was above Ireland. Now, above Ireland, does that mean that when it did explode, the scatterings end up in Ireland somewhere?
Probably, and we've had other fireballs happen in our 20-year history. This is by far the biggest event. More people have reported seeing this one, nearly 1,000 written reports in, and we're still looking for more from people in the Donegal area, which is where we think it came down. And if you consider the anatomy of a meteorite fall, what actually happens? Well, the Earth's going around the Sun at 70,000 miles an hour. The object may be coming towards us at a similar speed, and closing speed can be 100,000 miles an hour. When a rock, even the size of a football, hits the Earth at that speed, it burns up in a massive fireball that starts about 100 miles above the ground and works its way down to about 10 miles above the ground. In those 2 or 3 seconds, it loses all of its speed, produces this massive streak that everybody sees in the sky. It was a Wednesday evening, February the 3rd, 6 p.m, everybody going home from work. Hundreds of thousands probably of actual witnesses saw it. And the last 10 miles, it's lost all its speed, so it's not going fast enough to glow anymore, and it just falls for 5 minutes at terminal velocity and hits the ground with a thump. And we're trying to figure out where that was.
Of course, it could hit you with a thump, couldn't it? Or me with a thump. I mean, that's the reality of this.
Yeah, I mean, all over the world there have been stories. Ireland's a very small target, so we haven't had any reports of anyone being even near a meteorite when it's landed. There was a chap in England in the early 90s who was tending his garden, he heard a clatter in his trees and found a warm little black rock in his garden. There was a couple who got up early on a Saturday morning. Luckily for them, when they came home, they found a hole in the roof and a meteorite buried in their bed. And then a chap working on his PC late at night, a meteorite comes through the roof, bounces around the room and lands next to the power supply. So a few lucky escapes. No one's actually been killed yet. I think there's a report one lady was hit on the hip. But she, again, no one actually killed. The rocks don't blast craters like most people think.
Yes.
They just hit the ground with a thud. So you have to be very unlucky to be hit by one. Yeah. And if you're not hit by it, they're very valuable.
Are they? Really? Oh yeah, someone will pick them up and take them and have a look at them and buy them.
Collectors go ape for them. The one in 1999, the last huge one that we saw, we predicted eventually it landed on Carlow. Sure enough, fragments were found in Carlow. The collector who bought them was selling pieces of them for $500 a gram. That's 50 times the price of gold at the time.
Wow. Tell us about your equipment. You brought all this stuff along, starting with this big monster of a thing. It's not really a monster by your standards, but well, I've never seen a telescope that big up close before.
Well, telescopes really are rated by the diameter. This one is 8 inches across, and that means it collects about 1,000 times more light. If you look at it, you get 1,000 pupils of your eye fitted across the front aperture of this one. And as long as the telescope is high quality, that's what you go by, the diameter. This one's a very compact telescope. Some people may have seen the giant telescope in Dunsink, which is 20 feet long and a building all its own. This one is roughly equivalent to it. This is what miniaturization, if you like, has done. And it's got a full computer system. It'll move up and down and left and right. And all you have to do with these telescopes these days is point them at 3 stars. You don't need to know their names. And they will then find everything in the universe literally at the touch of a button. You press planet button, up pops list of planets, you pick the one you want, it moves to it, and you just look in.
How's it doing? By some sort of GPS technology?
Well, it turns out that of all the bright stars, there are different separations from one another. And when you move it from the 3 stars, it looks up what 3 stars are actually that distance apart and figures everything out. It's almost by magic.
Because it knows already what's in the system or what's in the heavens.
It has a full database of 40,000 objects, all the 1,000 or so bright stars you can see with the naked eye, all the planets, star clusters, galaxies. You press the tour button, it'll suggest things like the Andromeda galaxy. the Orion Nebula, things like that. When it's moving to them, which only takes about 30 seconds, it'll describe them in the display for you as well.
Expensive?
It's like having me next to you, explaining everything and finding everything
Except
for
you don't know 40,000 stars, do you?
No, even I would need a Star Atlas and a few books
How much?
to match that. That one is top of the range. It's around €1,400 mark.
Right. Not excessive.
Well, the one next to you is about a quarter of the power. It's a simple lens-based telescope, not as compact, not as wide, and it's in the €400 mark. And
Right.
you can get manual telescopes from €100 up.
Okay, now you've also bought binoculars. I would have thought binoculars would be a very limited way of looking at stars.
Well, in fact, this is what we recommend people to start off with. A pair of binoculars like this have 70mm lenses, 3-inch lenses almost, and they'll show you star clusters and galaxies galore. Of course, Astronomy Ireland is the biggest telescope shop in the country. These are the binoculars we recommend for astronomy. Might be a little bit big for daytime use. They're extremely powerful for daytime use. And we have even bigger ones than these. And the great thing about binoculars is they're easy to point. There are books teaching you how to find your way around the sky. And then, of course, to change the magnification, people always wonder about magnification, you actually use these eyepieces.
Okay.
And these little eyepieces, you pop them into the telescope, that'll make it magnify about 500 times. The bigger one at the other end is about 60 times.
And different lenses as well, or just the eyepiece?
Different lenses for different magnifications.
Okay.
And faint objects, you want a low magnification, and planets, bright objects, the moon, you want a high magnification. But your telescope must be of good quality. And I suppose our advice to people is, you know, there are lots of places selling inexpensive telescopes these days. You should find the telescopes from Astronomy Ireland at the same price or lower cost. But then you have all the advice on, one, choosing the right one for you, but also then for the rest of your life, what to see with it.
Yes.
If you don't know where the planet Mars is, where the moon is, you can call Astronomy Ireland and we'll tell you that as well as how to use
All
your
on
telescope.
astronomy.ie.
Astronomy.ie.
Just quickly before you go, what should we be looking out for at this time?
The big thing is planet Mars. It was at its closest at the end of January, so all during February and March it's going to be very well placed in the evening sky. We have a Mars watch coming up on March 25th because Mars will be near the moon again. We had one of those on January 29th already. That was very successful, lovely clear skies. And you'll see the dark surface markings on Mars, even with a telescope of this size and certainly with a telescope the larger size. And we'll have telescopes at least as big as this, some actually bigger than this, at venues all around Ireland. Go to astronomy.ie, and if you can't get along, just look up any evening high in the south and you'll see a brilliant, definitely orange star. That's the planet Mars, closer to us than it will be till the year 2014.
2014?
Yep, so you have a
Which
long
is
wait
way away,
if you miss it over the next couple of months.
That's interesting. And no other celestial body of any interest, you know, can we see Saturn or any of these at this
Jupiter is just about dipped down into the twilight glow. It's gone until next year. Saturn is in morning sky, so if you're getting up early, you'll see the planet Saturn over in the morning sky. And it'll come into the evening sky later in the year. We're going to have Saturn watches later on this year. Of course, our 20th anniversary. So there's lots of events planned for this year. You'll get them all on astronomy.ie, one of which is the fact our magazine. We're doing a special offer for this. If anybody wants to get our magazine, normally it's €4 a month, but you can actually get 20 issues instead of 12 if you join during our 20th anniversary.
Well, there you are now.
Little recession buster.
Never short of doing a plug
Ireland.
either, Dave, but it's very nice to have you on. And astronomy.ie for news about all of those things, for telescope deals, and that big one, I mean, 1,400, it sounds like a lot of money, but if you're getting seriously into it, maybe that's where you should be, and certainly work your way up from the binoculars. Anyway, it's all on astronomy.ie. And thanks to Dave for coming on. Stay with us. We're talking about free telephone calls. Yep, that's all next.